You're at two then.
You're gonna have fun with this one at number two.
Oh, let
There's
me see.
definitely no bias in this one.
Oh my God, give me George Bello. Hook it to my veins.
Oh God, absolutely not George Bello. At number two for me and my criteria, I've got Giassi's artist. LA Galaxy homegrown.
Oh my God.
23,000 minutes played in MLS was almost the top of any homegrown I've looked at. He's played exclusively in MLS, so that's definitely going to hurt him a bit, especially on your criteria. There's no move overseas. He had the most goals scored out of any homegrown, and it was not even close. The next closest was Diego Fagundes with 68. Giassi's artist has 103 goals. I imagine there's probably only so many players in MLS history that have 100 goals. So to be able to do that as a homegrown, I think is phenomenal. He has 26 assists to tack onto that as well. His output was number one on the list. Diego Fagundes really being the only one that was close by. And I do understand that Zardes has more years under his belt compared to other guys. I'm sure if Ricardo Pepi had as many years in MLS as Giassi Zardes, that Pepi would have probably just as many, or if not more, goals and assists. But I think his impact from what he's been able to accomplish within the league, four times he's had double digit goals in the league. I think with the most being 19 goals in a season. I don't think that should be overlooked. His impact within the league has been massive. One time MLS All Star and one time MLS Comeback Player of the Year. He has two MLS Cups and one Campeones Cup. Those helped out a little bit, but not too much. Doesn't have too much in the personal awards. And then one of the big ones that helped him a lot, and I'm sure people will argue about it till the day they die, but he has 3,965 minutes with the national team, probably because of his play within the league. 103
Not
goals.
enough, if you ask me.
103 goals, I'm sure, for plenty of coaches is enough to get a guy into your national team. So he has 4,000 minutes basically with the national team. It was one of the highest in the entire list. So just based off my criteria and what I looked at, he rose to the top basically because he has good success in the league and because he's played a lot with the national team.
I don't hate it. He actually, before I moved players around, was nine on my list. But I needed to get Jesus Ferreira in there, and
Yeah, I
I
don't blame
think
you.
I moved the wrong player out. I think probably, I'm not going to, and I'm never going to admit that I was wrong. But maybe Chris Richards could have dropped out, and Josh Artist could have stayed at nine. Maybe, but no, definitely not. You were wrong.
I do want to specify that I don't think that Zardes is necessarily a better player than Jesus Ferreira or like
Right, right.
Brendan Aronson. I just think that again, I was looking at what impact they could make to the league, and nobody has made a bigger impact in terms of goals and assists in the league than him out of homegrowns. Like his impact has just been phenomenal, like off the charts. And people will hate on him forever because he probably just doesn't do enough in the national team, and that'll always come back to get some haters on you.
Yep.
But I think that has caused people to kind of underrate him.
Okay. So for number two, I think you've talked about him a little bit.
Didn't you do no? Oh no, sorry, no, you didn't do number two yet.
How dare you?
Sorry, I rambled on for Giannis artists for too long.
Number two, Red Bull legend, one that we all know, we all love, we all respect. Connor Lade. Tyler Adams is my number two. Seventh most titles won across a ton of different leagues. 11th most international appearances, which would be way higher if he could stay freaking healthy. 15th highest money sold for. And the reason I've bumped him up is for two reasons. One, that figure for money sold is disgustingly undervalued because it was a Red Bull under the table transfer. If any other team comes and gets him, I mean, he's a top five transfer out. No question.
Was there no sell on that?
There was. It was a 33% sell on. So technically, if you
Okay,
want to add it all together, I think it went up to like 10 mil or something like that. But the original reported price, I couldn't be bothered to do the whole math. I think
gotcha,
I
gotcha.
think the whole thing is about 11 mil. So he's a top 5 transfer for money.
Yep.
The thing that bumped him up outside of being a Red Bull GOAT and playing with a bunch of friends that I had at Alfred, captain of the men's national team, a no doubt captain of the men's national team for a while when he got in there. That doesn't happen to everybody, right? So you look at him and you can tell his injury has impacted the team significantly, right? When he's not there, it's always a question of who's filling in for Tyler, right? And I mean this with no disrespect. When Luca De La Torre is hurt, the question isn't who's filling in for Luca De La Torre, right? The question is always how are we making up for the number of balls Tyler Adams recovers? How are we making up for the number of tackles and aerials and distance covered? How are we refilling those numbers when Tyler Adams is hurt? You want to talk about impact and what that means? Tyler Adams is the face of an impactful homegrown player. Comes out of the academy, does it, and by the way, does it at every level. PDL, U23s, Red Bull 2, won Red Bull 2 as a captain at 16 years old, scored against Chelsea at 16 years old, goes up to the first team, captains the first team, and if it wasn't for one mistake that he makes, Red Bull wins a treble. Don't get me started on 2018 because I'll do it. I'll do it right now. Goes in, earns himself a move that should have been a heck of a lot more money, ended up being about 11 mil, does it at a high level in Germany, gets kicked out by a coach who thinks he's too good for him. Leipzig fall off the face of the earth. Goes to Leeds. Fantastic. I mean, that's my favorite graph of all time. Expected points with Tyler Adams in, and then where they ended up after he got hurt. You want to talk about impact, and that all comes from a homegrown player coming out of our system. And now he's over at Bournemouth. Once he gets healthy, I'm sure he'll again contribute to that sort of success. But Tyler Adams is the man behind the man.
The thing I love most about Tyler Adams is that every single team he goes to, the fans are like, yeah, I rate this guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's good. Like, he just puts in shifts for this team. Like, even when Leeds got relegated, and I know Leeds fans unrightfully were just dunking on all the MLS players, or sorry, all the American players.
Yep.
I think even then they weren't saying anything bad about Tyler Adams. The worst thing they could have said about him was that he couldn't stay healthy, which is an unfortunate part of his career so far. He has been very injured.
Yep.
But I think he's genuinely like, I think he might actually be my favorite player in the national team. Like, I just think what he does is so underrated. And I know you were asking the question before. It's like when he's out, it's the question of who's replacing him. And I just feel like there is nobody that replaces him. Correct. I don't think there's anybody. Like, the closest person I can think of, and he can't fill Tyler's shoes fully, but the only person I can think of that can kind of play the similar style is like James Sands. But again, he's not filling the shoes of Tyler Adams. Like, his impact when he's out is just massive.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point that I made. I'm glad you agreed with that because
I'm agreeing with you too much. Your ego is, I don't think you're fitting on the screen fully right now.
well, here's the problem. You're agreeing with me about Red Bull themed players.
Yeah,
That's your
true.
issue.
Too much.
Like,
Matt
if you
Migazga.
agree with me on like Ricardo Pepi, which you did, I was like, yeah, whatever. Me saying Tyler Adams a goat, you being like, yeah, man, you're right. I'm like, yeah, I'm right. Say it again.
Tyler Adams, and you can, I think you can switch your focus and your criteria in a ton of different ways. I don't think he falls out of the top 5. I think, but you had him outside the top 5, didn't you?
Well, I had him at 6.
Well,
but
there it is.
I was also not. If I factored in the sell-on, which I figured there was, then he's top 5.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Yeah, that impact's fantastic. He is. If I'm the coach and he's healthy, he's the first name on the team sheet. No questions, right? I didn't have an argument, but I had a conversation with a guy about where he ranks when healthy amongst worldwide defensive midfielders. I said he's top 10. Maybe it's a stretch, but I think he's top 10. And I think a lot of the people who are rated above him are overrated. Declan Rice as a center defensive midfielder is not a 105, $110 million player. He's just not. But if Tyler Adams was English, he'd be an $80 million defensive midfielder. Let's not go down that road. Let's finish this up.
That's a whole other episode.
Yeah, that is. You're right. Sorry, I got carried away there.